Hey guys, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to my Demon Avenger. Today we're going to start off by just kind of explaining what just happened between the last part and this one. At the end of the last part I was barely level 221 and now I am currently sitting at level 227. And honestly it's pretty straightforward to explain. When I finished up with the strawberry farm at the end of the last part, it actually left me at 221 with about 80% or so. And all I really had to do was unlock Lachlan, which is a quick short prequest for me, mostly thanks to the fact that I had already done it on my main, so I could easily skip it. And after doing a few of my dailies, it did level me up to level 224. I did claim a lot of the rewards already from level 220 all the way to 225, and I could do Monster Park in Lachlan. Now, one of the nicest things about the most recent update that I wanted to talk about is that Monster Park is by far one of the best forms of EXP that we can currently get for pretty low effort, and thanks to the Hyperburn as well, we are pretty well geared to being able to do Monster Park without too much difficulty. My character was easily able to run through all 7 of the runs, and I was able to get about 80% EXP or 70% EXP across all of them, which is an insane amount of EXP. I was pretty close to leveling up. I think I was at about 90% or something, so I just spent some time in Lachlan. I picked the map and I just attacked mobs for about 10 minutes and I easily made up the bit of EXP to level up one more time to 227. And as you guys can see right now, I am now sitting in Arcana. I have already claimed a lot of the rewards. As you guys can see here for the hyper burning, I have claimed my 225 rewards, which includes of course a level 7 symbol and another 100 node stones. I'm in a pretty good spot at the moment. My current combat power for this character is about 2 million. Most of this is getting carried by the arcane symbols, but also slightly because of my hyper stats, and one of the more recent gains that I made was this inner ability. So what I decided to do, just as a little bit of fun, was to roll my inner ability to unique. I just simply reset the IA a bunch of times, and it's relatively cheap to roll from epic to unique. And once I hit unique on the IA, I decided to buy a few miracle circulators from the cash shop, which cost about 20 mil each. I could easily afford them on this character thanks to the bosses that I have cleared, CRA and a few others, and I just rolled my inner ability to legendary, and this is what I ended up with. So ideally, I think my character is actually looking for attack speed +1, so I'm just using the boss damage as a placeholder because I think attack speed +1 it can get pretty expensive to roll for, so we'll just settle for boss damage for the time being. In between training as well, I did do a extra boss. I decided to clear Chaos Pink Bean, and Chaos Pink Bean is one of the easier bosses in comparison to the other weeklies, and I really was just doing this boss for a few drops. One of them is the belt. I think the Pink Bean belt is one of the better items to use as fodder for our eventual superior belt, and more importantly actually I wanted to try to get the Black Bean mark. The Black Bean mark uses the same spot as our aquatic letter eye accessory, and yeah, it's just a better item. It goes up to level 135 if I remember correctly, and it can be Star Force past 17, which is a big deal. Now unfortunately I wasn't able to get that as a drop, so we'll try again tomorrow because that is the weekly reset. Because it is the weekly reset, that perfectly sets up me rushing a few things. It is currently a few hours before reset, and there are a few bosses I would like to try before the end of this week. The first one is the one that we've been talking about since the last part, and that is our next item burning quest, Chaos Papulatus. Now, I don't know if I can clear this. I was really confident going into this boss until I started doing Chaos Root Abyss, and if you guys haven't seen the previous part, I literally died out way too many times for me to remember, and Chaos Root Abyss is now a very sad memory for me. But it doesn't mean that I'm not going to give it a try. There are other bosses as well that I would like to do just for a little bit of money. I would like to do Cygnus because this should be a pretty easy clear, and then I would also like to clear Princess No because she does give us a chance of getting some nice items, and we'll talk about that once we get there. But first, let's just focus on Papulatus. Papulatus has a lot more HP than Seavel, so I don't really know if I can clear it, so I would like to do as many upgrades as I can for cheap before we go into it. Starting off with some items that can just simply be Star Force or potted. This is something that I've been putting off for a while because I am quite lazy. I didn't really want to just keep Star Forcing a bunch of items, but I think that would be a pretty easy gain. So let's go ahead and just simply Star Force all these up to at least 10 and give it a potential as well. I think I have some potential scrolls, maybe not necessarily here, but I should have them in my storage. I will be allowing myself just standard potential scrolls just because they are relatively easy to get, and it is pretty accessible for most players. Alright, so it took a little bit of time, but I managed to get the potential and the star force that I wanted on these items. I got all of them to about 10 stars each, and I rolled all of them for 3% stat here, so it was a bit weird rolling for HP. Usually I roll over the line, and honestly, I probably did roll over HP lines every once in a while because I'm so used to just clicking over them. But thankfully, it didn't take too long. I think the one I'm most disappointed in is the secondary. I rolled like over 100 cubes on this, and it still hasn't seen 3% attack, so I just gave up and left it at 12. And I think this will be a good amount of extra damage that we can use. Puts our character at 2.4 mil combat power, so quite a nice gain in terms of damage. And what I'm going to do before I go into any of the bosses is give myself my bonus. Now that I've leveled up to 227, I am allowed another 2 link skills from the last time, because I believe the last time I gained link skills was at level 215. So for this, I am trying to mostly focus on my bossing. I really want to clear CPAP before the end of the week, and that just means I'm looking for things that will give me the most damage towards the bosses. The first thing that comes to mind is the Demon Slayer link skill. This gives us 20% boss damage, which is pretty fantastic, and that is going to be a lot of damage. And the other one that I'm planning on getting, I'm going to allow myself to be able to do this. It's technically not one link skill, but I will be giving myself Spirit of Freedom. Because I am so new to the class of DN Avenger, and it is kind of a punishing class, I would like to give myself a little bit more room for error, so I want to take all of these Spirit of Freedom links. I will allow myself to take all 4 of them, even though typically you would have to make 4 characters. I think Spirit of Freedom is just invaluable to me, so I'm going to allow myself this just to save myself a little bit of pain. So hopefully you guys are okay with me getting level 8 Spirit of Freedom. This will help me a lot in the bossing for sure, so then at least I can respawn and not worry about dying immediately. So these are the stats that we're currently working with. The boss damage and the ignore defense has gone up a little bit thanks to the event buff that we currently have. I realized that I didn't actually have any of these buffs on previously, so this is what I'm currently working with. I get an extra 20% boss damage and 20% IED from the event buffs. So with these stats, I'm going to give a go at trying to do CPAP. I really want to try to get the next step of the item burning out of the way so then we can get a pretty significant upgrade. So my understanding of this is getting these items to level 17 is actually pretty big. Currently they're all 15 stars, so an extra 2 stars above 15 across all 8 of these items is going to be a huge attack increase. So I think out of all these challenges here for this item burning, this Chaos Papulatus one is gotta be one of the best upgrades that we can get for essentially free. I'm gonna go set up for the boss and we'll give it a go. And there we go. I kind of expected CPAP to be a bit more of a struggle, but as it turns out, I had a lot easier time in that boss than for C-Vel and for Clown, or just CRA in general. I guess there wasn't as many things that I had to be as wary of. maybe I just didn't get hit by a clock. I'm a little bit surprised and a little bit confused, to be quite honest. I don't really know what to say. That was significantly easier than I expected. Maybe I cheesed it somehow with Demon Avenger. Maybe it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be, but I really didn't feel like I struggled at all. In terms of damage, it was pretty reasonable. Didn't take too long to clear the boss, maybe 5 to 6 minutes. I don't know what to say. I really thought that Chaos Pat was going to be a lot harder, but I will say that this gliding skill for the demons is very easy to use when it comes to micromanaging your movement, so maybe that made it really easy for me to move in and out of getting hit by things. But yeah, I genuinely thought that it was going to be way more difficult, and honestly, I'm okay with it being easier than expected. I am a little bit traumatized from Chaos Root Abyss because, like I said, I'm going to have to end up doing those bosses again after the reset, so I might actually just end up dying out again on CRA. I'm happy that CPAP was easy. With CPAP being done, our item burning can now move on to the next step. We are currently sitting at 2.4 mil combat power like we saw earlier, and I'm just about to go ahead and upgrade my items now that we got Chaos Papulatus done. And here we go, we're about to get our stage 3 complete, and this is probably, like I said earlier, going to be one of the best upgrades we're going to get for a while. All of our gear is going to Star Force to 17, which is going to be an insane amount of attack. I cannot wait to see our combat power after we equip these items. And there we go, guys. We are now at 3 mil combat power. A huge jump in damage because of the fact, again, they are all now 17 star. Each star past 15 will give us a decent amount of attack, and as you guys can see, each one of these items currently give me 21 to 19 attack. And I also just realized that the flames are actually steadily getting better as well. You can see here, I remember the flames being some variation of 3% and 3s, and yeah, they're all gone up to 4, and I'm assuming the strength and the HP stats have also gone up. So yeah, these items are proving to be pretty serious damage boosts. And this item burning is incredible for any new character. I really haven't done any expensive upgrades just yet. Just really getting carried by this challenger gear, and I love it. Being able to access so much more of the game without having to invest too much Meso is an amazing feeling. Just to continue on with this high that I currently have, I'm going to give a go at doing a few more bosses just before the weekly reset. It also is quite late for me. Unfortunately, I won't be able to do Lotus and Damian before the reset, but that's okay. I'm happy giving a go at Cygnus just for a little bit of money, and I do want to try to run Pino. I don't think that damage is going to be an issue. It's just a matter of, will I die to the boss? I don't really know the mechanics for Pino, to be quite honest, so we'll give her a go as well. Pino does drop a few nice items for us, one of them being the fragments for our secondary, because currently we're using just the secondary that we've been given, and I believe the Princess No secondary is the one we want to aim for until we get a Ruin Force Shield. And yeah, she also drops a Carnage Treasure, which is a fantastic ring that we can use later down the track. So let's see if we can get anything from either of these bosses. We didn't manage to get any drops from Princess No, and by the looks of it, we managed to get 5 fragments. So I think at this pace, unless we get really lucky next week, we're probably going to take another 2 weeks to be able to get our actual secondary. And yeah, that's okay. It's just a slow and steady improvement on our gear. And just the fact that we could clear Pino and also Cygnus with relative ease is quite nice as well. So let's go ahead and sell off our crystals and see how our money looks at the moment. I also get to sell the CPAP crystal as well, so we'll just have a look. It looks like we get 280 mil, which is pretty damn nice. We get 130 from CPAP, and 80 from Princess No, and 70 from Cygnus. Puts us currently on 600 mil at the moment, and in all honesty, this character has already started making a decent amount of money. I have basically invested maybe 200 mil into this character, and most of it was actually just this IA. So really the gear, I didn't invest very much money into it at all, and it's already made basically 800 mil all up in 1 week, and that is a pretty good amount of income for a character that was basically created about a week ago. I am very pleased with this event so far, and I think before I make any more decisions regarding my money or what my next plans are, it's time for me to go to sleep. So I'll see you guys in the morning. Good morning, everyone. It's a little strange going to bed in Arcana and waking up in Morass, but here we are. What ended up happening was when I woke up, it was after reset, and I decided to quickly do my Monster Park and a few of my dailies, and it was actually enough for me to get to level 230. It's pretty incredible how much EXP Monster Park actually gives nowadays. They've definitely doubled the EXP, like they said. So we're getting quite a lot of EXP from just running our 7 Monster Parks a day, and on top of that, in this current event as well, I've chosen to upgrade a few of my EXP trees, as you guys can see in a second. With this event here from the healer buffs, I've been putting my points into Arcane River dailies and into Monster Park, and they've been giving me so much more EXP. Every time I do a run, it gives me now 30% extra EXP. And at this point every day, I'm basically getting like 9 or 10 Monster Park runs in. This is giving me so much EXP. I've barely trained on this character and I'm already level 230. And of course I have claimed the new items as well for the hyper burning. You can see here I've already claimed my level 7 symbol here in Morass and an extra 100 node stones, which is awesome. But of course that wasn't the only thing that I've done since the last time I recorded. I also went ahead and did a few of my weeklies, as you guys can see here. I went ahead and did Magnus first. I really wanted to do Hard Magnus as soon as he reset, because I am still missing a few of his items. The main one I'm missing is his badge. I still do not have a badge, even though I've done Hard Magnus twice, so I think this is a little bit unlucky. I feel like the badge drops reasonably frequently from Hard Magnus. So unfortunately I still need to do normal Magnus every day in hopes to get a badge, which I currently don't have. I also went ahead and did Chaos Zachem. Chaos Zachem is a nice amount of money. It's a very easy boss for me now, but I think something that I didn't expect to be doing on this Demon Avenger is actually collecting capes. I actually do need these Zachem capes, and I'll quickly explain why I need this, and also kind of why the reason I've been collecting these items from Ranmaru. As it turns out, for Demon Avenger, we have some pretty strong star forcing conversion. I don't really understand fully what's going on with the star forcing for Demon Avengers, but as it turns out, Absolab is actually a very competitive set against Arcane. Usually when we do Absolab transfers, most classes will not push more than maybe 3 sets of 21 star Absolab gear, but for Demon Avenger it's actually quite viable for us to even go 22 star Absolab. I'm just going to leave it at that for the time being because it's a little bit further down the track. But I just wanted to share with you guys a little bit of information about Demon Avenger, and as it turns out, going for Absolab gear is actually pretty valuable for this class. Other than those two, I did go ahead and do Chaos Papulatus as well, Pink Bean and Pinot. All of these weeklies gave a lot of money. I don't know if I've actually sold the crystals just yet, so let's have a quick check. And there you go, 450 mil from just those weeklies. And the reason for this is because for both Pink Bean and Chaos Papulatus, they do drop a eye accessory that is slightly better than the Zachem one that we're currently using. And I was kind of hoping for them to drop, but the drop rates for both of those items is actually quite low. For Chaos Pap, you could easily go years without seeing his drop, and for Pink Bean, it's just a low drop rate. So it might take me a few weeks to see one, but until then, I'll just be using this Zachem face accessory. As for Pinot, I went ahead and ran her because I really wanted to try to get her ring. The ring is just a nice piece of damage gear that we should try to start collecting as soon as possible. And on top of that too, she does drop the fragments for us to get our best in slot secondary. Unluckily, I only got 3 fragments from her this week, so I think it's going to take me another 2 weeks to be able to get my actual secondary, which is a little bit unfortunate, but it is what it is. Now you guys might be wondering why I've only done those bosses and I haven't touched any of the others, and the reason for that is just because we are having a cube sale coming up pretty soon actually. As of when I'm recording right now, I think the cube sale starts in about 8 hours or so. And we are going to be focusing on doing some upgrades on this character that I think are very important. And to do that first, of course, I wanted to try to get as many items as possible that can be cubed up. I am still missing a few items. Right now I'm missing 2 rings, and I'm actually going to fill out one of the slots right now. Thanks to this Forgotten Festival event, we are able to get the event rings like I showed on the previous part, and I have enough to buy 1 more ring. I would have been able to buy the 3rd ring had I not spent on the tickets for the strawberry farm last week, but I believe I used it just so then I could get to my level goals a little bit faster. I do have slight regrets to it because I think I probably would have preferred the event ring as of right now, but then again, I did push the levels a lot faster, which was quite nice. So I guess we win some and we lose some here. And I'm just going to claim this 2nd event ring as well, just making sure that I don't double up on anything. I don't think you can wear 2 of the same ones, so I've got to make sure I don't claim a second one of this particular ring. With our ring equipped and our new arcane symbol that we just got from Moras, let's have a quick look at our combat power. We're sitting at 3.5 mil combat power, which is pretty fantastic here. And another upgrade that I actually get on this account now that I am level 230 is I get another link skill. So let's have a quick look at what we have so far. We have a bunch of bossing links and some training links as well. And as of right now, I've decided that maybe I should try to pivot my direction with this character a little bit. I know that I should be aiming towards the next tier of bosses, according to the item burn, which is Lotus and Damian. I think I can solo Lotus and Damian pretty soon. I think if I make a few upgrades on my gear, maybe some cubing, maybe some star forcing, I should be able to contest normal Lotus pretty comfortably. And we also have been receiving a lot of node stones as well from both our hyper burning and from the current event. I don't think that I need to worry too much about my link skills to try to get a little bit more damage for either of those bosses. So I'm going to pivot my direction for this character's link skill for this particular upgrade. And the one that I'm going to go for is actually the Evan link skill. I don't really train on this character so much, so I want to try to make the most out of burst training. Evan's link skill increases the duration of a rune, and because I'm not really training too much or too heavily on this character, the rune duration is actually very valuable for me. I think this is the most valuable EXP link skill that I can pick at the moment, and that will be my personal reward for hitting level 230 here. I mentioned a little bit about our nodes. For this, we actually do get another 10 EXP node stones here, and I'm not really sure where exactly I want to invest this in, but I do have 2 or 3 maybe options that I can put this into. The first one being just simply trying to max Demonic Frenzy as fast as possible. This skill by itself is the main reason that Demon Avenger is a very strong class. And with all of these, I'm pretty much almost maxed on Demonic Frenzy. I really like the idea of kind of maxing my main skill immediately, so I think this is what I'm going to do with my EXP nodes. But at the same time, we are also starting to develop a lot more usage out of Holy Symbol. It does give us a higher drop rate and higher EXP rate, but I think even if I do end up maxing this or getting more in it, it is a little bit of a diminishing return, or rather, it doesn't improve as well as Demonic Frenzy does. I think I might get a little bit more value out of maxing Demonic Frenzy at this point compared to Holy Symbol. Now, usually you don't overly invest in one particular node, but it definitely depends on your class. And I believe for Demon Avenger, this is the key skill. So I have no regrets maxing out Demonic Frenzy here. This will pay itself back pretty soon. Now it's currently level 23, and I believe I probably need to craft maybe 5 or 6 more for it to be maxed out. And my character will be at pretty much peak performance regarding Demonic Frenzy. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and finish up the rest of the weeklies here. I am also going to do a few more of my dailies. I might even end up leveling up to level 233. So after all my dailies and Monster Park, I ended up at basically 233. I am just a few mobs off of leveling up here, currently sitting at 99.7%. And I decided to take a little break. I was going to do some more of my weeklies, but I realized that right now we are currently having the cube sale. It definitely started a little bit earlier than I expected. I thought it was going to be after reset, but it happened around after dinner time for me here. And I decided that I was going to transition this video a little bit away from doing more weeklies and kind of general progression, and I really wanted to talk about making Meso and drop gear. Now, I said that for this Demon Avenger, I wasn't going to dump too many resources onto it. I didn't want to speedrun this character, but Meso and drop gear is like a really important part of playing this game, and I do see myself training this character, and I do see myself pushing it past 260, so Meso and drop gear is a really important part of that. And I will be kind of overfunding it in that respect. I'm not going to restrict myself from making just basic Meso and drop gear, and I'll talk a little bit about that here. I need to explain what Meso drop gear is, and I'm going to show you guys this little UI here. We have Meso obtained and item drop rate. There are 2 parts to this. The first one being Meso obtained, which is simply how much money do you get per bag. Whenever you kill a mob, it will drop a bag sometimes, and this Meso obtained percentage will increase how much you get per bag. So perhaps a mob might give you 1 or 2k, and then with more Meso drop gear, it will go up to 10k, for example. Then we have item drop rate, which basically determines whether or not we actually do get a Meso bag at all. Usually for item drop rate, there are a few different ways of getting it. The one way that you see right now is Legion Artifact, which is a component within the game. I'm not going to really explain Legion Artifact, but you do get some buffs from it. We also have Holy Symbol, which is a 5th job skill. It gives you a little bit of drop rate as well. And then the other main form of getting drop rate is within your items. And the number that we're going to try to aim for is around 60 to 70%. I believe the breakpoint is about 67%. And if we have 67% here on our item drop rate, that will guarantee every mob that we kill will drop a Meso bag. So this is what I'm going to try to do. I'm going to try to roll all of my accessories. So then I will have at least 70% or so drop rate, and then at least 5 lines of Meso obtained. Meso obtained is capped at 100%, if you can see here. So that's the first thing I'm going to do. I'm going to try to get as much Meso gear as possible, and then fill out the rest with item drop. Now, I'm not going to really hold back here, because this is a pretty key part of progression, and we are currently having a cube sale, so I'm just going to allow myself to make the most out of it. I do have a lot of money ready here, but I'm not going to full send into making things like hybrids or perfect drop Meso gear. I'm just simply going for the lines, so then I don't overspend. Hopefully that makes sense, and let's go to rolling. The only thing that I have a little bit of issues with is the fact that I am missing a ring. Ideally, I would like one more event ring that we currently can't buy from the event. It's because I ended up buying, of course, the tickets for the strawberry farm, so I can't get my 4th event ring here, but that's okay, we'll get it later. I'm gonna go cube a bunch. I'm gonna get all of these accessories to legendary, and we'll see where it ends up, and hopefully I have a nice set of Meso drop gear to show you guys. And there we go, we managed to finish up with all of our cubing so far. I have almost all of the items at Legendary. I'm just missing 1 ring, and I'm just kind of contemplating if I want to go out of my way to make a Meso drop ring now for the final spot, or do I just buy a bunch of cubes to do it later. But so far I think I spent about 6 bill on cubes to try to get them all to Legendary, which is quite nice. I think that was overall a lot cheaper than I was kind of expecting. I think on average I expect to do all of my drop Meso gear in about 10 bill, but yeah, we're not quite there yet. We have only just hit all of them to Legendary, minus 1 item. So I think it does seem about right. And now I'm just going to go buy some more cubes and try to roll for some drop and Meso lines. As you guys can see here, I've only hit 1 so far. These are all the potentials on reveal. I haven't re-rolled anything just yet. So I'm going to buy some of the normal re-roll cubes and see if we can get our drop and Meso gear. I'm only just going to settle on the first lines of Meso and drop that I get until I hit 5 Meso gear, and then I'll intentionally roll for item drop. And there we go, I think all of our Meso and drop gear is pretty much done here. I managed to hit 5 lines of Meso obtained across 5 items, and then the rest of them are item drop rate. And let's have a quick check on our stats to see exactly what we're looking at. I can see here on my equipment value here for the Meso obtained, it says 100, so that is at the cap, that's where we want to stop. And for item drop, we are just a little bit above 70 right here, 60 from the items and a little bit from my Legion artifact. Even if I didn't have the Legion artifact to push me over the number that we're aiming for, which is about 70%, I do also have Holy Symbol on, which will give me another 17%, as you guys can see here. So it is not too bad. I have pretty much exactly the drop gear that I was looking for. And like I said, I don't want to over-invest onto this character to try to make it play like a newish character. So I won't push much further than this. I might just keep these cubes for my next event ring, because I would like my last event ring to also be a drop Meso gear. Hopefully these cubes are enough. And I think the total spending so far for my drop Meso gear was about 7 bill. So definitely on the lower end. I was expecting to spend about 10 bill to be able to get all of my drop Meso gear. And yeah, it's looking pretty much done here for me. I didn't get any of the nice lines like this one. This one is the only one that I saw Meso obtained or item drop with a bit of stat. Unfortunately, this class doesn't get much benefit from all stat, so he only gets it from HP from my understanding. And yeah, that's pretty much all there is to making Meso and drop gear. Just making sure that we have the 5 lines of Meso obtained, like we can see here, 100% on equipment item, and just making sure our item drop rate is above 70%. So every time that we do end up killing a mob, it will drop a Meso bag, and the Meso bag will be as high of a amount as possible. Now, this basically allows me to train this character without feeling too bad. I've been holding off from training manually on this character because I didn't want to train without getting the benefit of extra Meso as well. once that's all done, maybe when I have more money, I can reinvest into these, so then I can fix up their potentials a little bit. So maybe I can go for item drop plus stat or something like that, because I still want to keep this character in a kind of new player perspective. Hopefully this is a okay breach of my own rule, making this Meso drop gear. I was going to do this anyway eventually, and I just decided, let's just make the most out of this cube sale so we can save a little bit of Meso. This character is already making a decent amount of money from just the weeklies anyway, so I just kind of saved myself a week or two worth of effort. Just rather than waiting, I could do the Meso drop gear now. In terms of my combat power, it's still sitting at around 3 mil, and that's also because I'm using a different preset. I had to go ahead and buy a greed pendant for my drop gear, because the other dominator pendant that we have been given from the event, this can't actually be re-rolled on its potential. So yeah, here's our proper damage gear. We are at 3.3 mil now. I also just realized that another item that I should also probably work on, which will also take advantage of this cube sale, is actually just my emblem. Unfortunately, we didn't get enough symbols from Pinot for our secondary, and I think we might even have to wait another 2 to 3 weeks to be able to get enough symbols at this pace, but hopefully we get it soon. I'm gonna spend a bit of money and see how this goes. And there we go, managed to get it to legendary here, and now I'm gonna try to re-roll it a little bit to hopefully get 2 lines of attack. I think that would be ideal for us, but I might even just settle on maybe 1 line of attack and 1 line of ID for the time being, but yeah, 2 lines of attack will be ideal, just so then we can train nice and comfortably with a lot of extra stat. So let's go ahead and see how this goes. And there we go, I took out some remaining cubes from my cash shop, and we did manage to get 2 line of attack, and this is a perfect settle for us for the time being. I would have liked to also have cubed the same thing for our secondary, but unfortunately, again, we do not have the Pinot one, so we're going to have to wait for that. And that pretty much concludes all our little cubing adventures for the time being. I think I would also really like to have re-rolled a lot of these for stat plus Meso or item drop, but that could get pretty expensive pretty quickly, and I don't re-roll too much on this character for the time being. I kind of wanted to get to 260 first before I decide to fix a lot of these gears, just so then I can enjoy the kind of slow-paced gameplay that a new character would usually have. So all of these cubes are pretty much going to go back into the storage until I get my next ring, and then once that comes by, I might try to push it to legendary as well, just to complete our item and drop gear. But hey, that pretty much concludes the cube sale for our account for the time being. And now I guess it's actually straight into training, because we actually do have Meso and drop gear set up. I can finally train without feeling too bad about it, and that will give us a decent amount of money while we train too. So after finishing up the cube sale, I went ahead and did a few more of our weeklies. I went ahead and did CRA amongst others, and I will say, after gaining a little bit more damage, it was a lot easier to clear the bosses. I didn't die out as much as I did in the first week. I think it's a mix of just getting used to avoiding the mechanics, or perhaps just being more familiar with my class, but definitely had an easier time this week than last week. I didn't die out in any of the bosses, thankfully, this time, and although I did die a few times, it wasn't as bad as the first week. Funnily enough, I did end up actually losing a lot more lives in CPAP than I did in the first week, but I think that's fine. We're just still getting used to our class and making a lot of progress here, and as you guys can see, I actually just recently leveled up to 236. The amount of EXP that we get from just our dailies at Monster Park again has been pretty insane during the event, and that's a lot to do with the fact that we do have a lot of these candles that I've been just putting into Monster Park Clear EXP and Arcane River EXP as well. Now that we're 236, I'm going to go ahead and do my Esfera prequest. This will give us access to the final area in the Arcane River, and also the last arcane symbol that we get. This will be probably the last of the easy gains that we can make, and for here on out, we're probably going to make slower gains, but at least we have the entirety of the Arcane River unlocked, and our symbols should be upgrading relatively quickly. So I'm just going to quickly go through these prequests, and I'll see you guys in a little bit. And of course, for being level 236, we also get our hyper burning rewards here, and this should be able to give us another level 7 arcane symbol. We actually also get another 150 arcane symbol selectors, which is really nice, and 5 EXP node stones as well. So I'm just going to quickly claim these. So with our new symbol, we are currently sitting at 4 mil combat power, and yeah, the symbols do give quite a lot of extra damage for more or less free. It gives us a lot of arcane power as well, so we'll be able to go ahead and do our weeklies and dailies a lot easier. And one of the first things that I'm really looking forward to is just getting a little bit more arcane power, so then I can actually go in and do some lucid runs. I would like to start lucid as soon as possible. I'm not quite there yet in terms of my damage, but at least my arcane force is not that big of a worry. And I also realized that my combat power was checked without my Dom pendant, so we're actually sitting at 4.3 mil, which is pretty good. I would like to do again normal Lotus and normal Damian as soon as possible, so we can get started on our actual Absolab gear, and also potentially getting a rune force shield even though it is normal Damian. Another day and another set of dailies. We're currently almost there at 242. I just wanted to talk a little bit about the next steps, which are to clear the next bosses. I haven't really been thinking too much about clearing Akechi and Lotus Damian just yet, even though they are the next steps for our progression. It's mostly because I want to try to get as many resources as I can before the weekly reset, so then we have an easier time clearing. But I think that even right now we'll be able to have a decent go at the bosses. I have claimed a lot of event rewards so far, including things as our node stones, and all these rewards along the way for our hyper burning. And I think with this, we should be strong enough to give them all a go. I made sure to join into a guild as soon as I could. I'm just currently in my main guild, Mule Guild, so we'll have at least a little bit of guild skills. It's not too much, but I think these will help out at least a little bit. What I'm going to try to do is, before reset, I'm going to go for the Lotus and Damian clear. I know I meant to go for Akechi first, but I'll be honest, I'm not that enamored by this boss. I think this boss is very annoying. And because I'm not super familiar with my class, I think having bad movement in Akechi is probably way worse than having bad movement in either Lotus or Damian. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to buff up as much as I can, and I'm going to give a go at both of these bosses. This is currently what my stats look like at the moment. I have leveled up a few times, so I might distribute these 150 points across some of my resources here. I haven't really pushed any of them past 10 yet because it is a little bit more expensive to upgrade them past 10. I can see here it cost me 50, so I can get 3 of these to level 11. And yeah, now that I actually have guild skills, it should be maybe a decent challenge for us. I will also have to get some Monster Park potions. I haven't really been playing with either the red or green pot, and because I don't really know how long these runs are going to be between Lotus and Damian, I'm going to give myself the best chances of clearing. So let's see if we can get a basically first week clear on Lotus and Damian. Okay, wow, we actually cleared Lotus in like 8 minutes. I really thought that this fight was going to take a little bit longer than it did. I wasn't really sure what to expect from this character because combat power is not always the most reliable stat, and I felt like most of my combat power was actually coming from these arcane symbols, so I thought maybe this character was a little bit stat padded, so the combat power is higher than the actual strength of the character. But I guess that the stars from the Challenger gear really kind of pushed this character over for me, and it did help that I do have a legendary emblem as well, with these attack lines to amplify these bits of attack from each of the gear. And yeah, we just pretty much cleared the boss without any difficulty. It took about 8 minutes. It didn't take any lies. I had a lot easier of a time in this boss than I did in CRA for sure. It felt like there was a lot of chip damage, which Demon Avenger I think feels a little bit more comfortable in, as opposed to a lot of attacks that hit really hard. So yeah, there we go. We managed to actually get our Lotus clear in this week. And just judging by the speed of this run, our Damian clear should also be maybe about 10 to 15 minutes. It really just depends on how I play through the mechanics. I'm not really sure how this character does in that boss, but we managed to get our Lotus clear here, and let's see how many cores we get. We get 2 cores, pretty good, it's pretty standard. And before we go ahead and attempt Damian as well for this part, I'm gonna go ahead and do the item burning. So we'll be able to hand in the next part of our item burning here, which required us to both get to level 225 and also clear normal Lotus by ourselves. And here we go, mission complete on the Lotus item burning. This will give all of our items a unique potential. I think it goes from 3 lines of epic to 2 lines of unique. Yep, there we go. We go from basically 12% to 15%. Each of the items effectively gaining 3% stat here. I think our combat power was roughly 4.1 mil, and now we are sitting at 5 mil combat power. That is a pretty significant increase. Definitely going to help out a lot in our Damian clear we're about to do. So this upcoming Damian clear is a pretty important one. This marks the beginning of our Demon Avenger having its chances of getting the best in slot secondary. Even though the drop rate is extremely low for normal Damian, there is still always a chance. And just being able to clear Damian, at least on the first week of this character, is going to be a pretty big bonus for us. So let's go ahead and clear Damian, and let's just see if we get extremely lucky. If we get a Rune Force Shield somehow on normal Damian, then I think this character is going to be pretty insane, but we'll worry about that if that ever happens. And there we go as well, guys. We managed to get our Damian clear nice and comfortable as expected, just based off of the pacing for our Lotus clear. And of course, we did get the upgrades on all of our items. I also realized that when I ran Lotus, I wasn't using my Dominator pendant that we were given. So that is also another extra amount of damage that I didn't have previously. So yeah, a very comfortable run. I'm a little bit upset I didn't try to do this a little bit earlier. I really didn't think I had this much damage going into this boss. I really underestimated the strength of our character here, that's for sure. But I think that's okay. I think I'm in a pretty happy spot here regarding our Demon Avenger. We can at least do all the main weekly bosses all the way up to normal Lotus and normal Damian. And I think this is actually a pretty nice stopping point for this character for a little bit. The jump to the next tier of bosses is going to be quite huge. And we're going to have to do a decent amount of upgrades, and yeah, we'll talk about that a little bit later. But for now, let's break the box. Our first ever Damian clear on this character. And wow, we even got a ring box. I completely forgot that these green ring boxes are possible to be gained from normal Lotus and normal Damian. we'll see what we get here. And it looks like we got a cleansing one. I don't think this is very useful, but hey, that's pretty cool. We managed to get a green ring box. Wasn't expecting one. I was kind of expecting Damian and Lotus to be the last things to do in this video, but then I realized there's actually one more thing that I would like to do, and that is a pretty important boss for our progression, and it leads on to probably the rest of the series, honestly. The boss that I'm talking about is actually Gollux. To be able to start Gollux, I think we'll have to do a little bit of a short prequest here. And the whole reason why we want to do Gollux is because the gear from this boss is extremely good. For most players, this gear is going to be best in slot, and it's no different for us here. I'm going to try to do this boss as often as possible. You do get a lot of daily coins from him, and generally speaking, you want to try to clear this boss as early as possible, just because a lot of it is time gated. I think the general consensus for the amount of damage you need to be able to solo this boss conveniently is to be able to solo Lotus and Damian. And given the fact that both my Lotus and Damian clears were actually pretty fast, I think that we have a pretty reasonable shot at clearing this boss. So it's actually 10 minutes before reset right now. I'm going to try to get through this cutscene, and hopefully we can get the clear before the 10 minutes is up. And yeah, I'm going to make sure I also clear with the Legion luck coupon. I haven't been using my Legion coins too much on this character, but I will give myself a little bit of leeway regarding this, just because the superior gear that you can get from this boss is really important. So I'm going to be clearing this boss every day with Legion luck, and hopefully we get some superior gear early on this character. And there we go as well for this boss. We managed to get our first ever Helix clear on this character, and as expected, just based off of how fast we cleared Lotus and Damian, this daily boss shouldn't be too difficult. I just need to make sure that I don't have my Frenzy on so it doesn't break the box immediately on entry. Also gives us a little bit of time to be able to swap over onto our drop gear. It's not a lot to go off of, but at least we get a little bit of item drop from this greed pendant. I'm currently sitting on 145% drop, so the chances of us getting a superior item is actually quite low. I think until we have probably closer to 300% drop, it's probably not going to get anything. So here's hoping we get something, but we're mostly here for the coins. Another nice thing as well from being able to clear Gollux is that we do get his purple key, which is a nice quality of life thing. I don't have to climb up, I can just use this key to get back straight into the head. And very well timed too. I think in just about 4 minutes we'll be able to do Gollux again, because we're about to have our daily reset, and we'll still even get to keep our Legion luck hopefully. So I'll see you guys in about 5 minutes when I retry Gollux, and then we'll wrap up the video afterwards. And we got our second Gollux run like that as well, back to back. Almost actually died out of that run, so I'm kind of glad that I barely survived there. Yeah, a little bit spicy on P1, but it was all good. And oh, we actually managed to get our first ever pair of reinforced earrings, I believe. Those are also going to be a pretty big part of our progression, just being able to clear this a little bit more consistently. Reinforced earrings are a pretty good bridge from the boss set. We can actually use these if we want to, but more likely we're going to end up using this alongside the reinforced belts and the golden clover belts that we get from Pink Bean as fodder for our eventual superior gear. But it is quite nice that we got our first set here. Building up these fodders early is always going to be nice. And I think with that, guys, that'll be it for today's video. We managed to get quite a lot of things done here today. We got a lot of levels for our character, and we managed to get a lot of the challenges done. For our item burning, we managed to clear CPAP, which is really nice. I expected this to be a bigger challenge, but thankfully our character was plenty strong for the boss, and it wasn't as much of a challenge compared to Vellum for me personally, just because I felt like Vellum had a lot of things going on in that boss, with a lot of different stuns, a lot of circles that I had to avoid that I guess I just got overwhelmed by. But for CPAP, I was a lot more familiar with this boss, and it felt pretty comfortable for me. And as for Lotus and Damian as well, these bosses went down a lot quicker than I think any of us kind of expected. The character's pretty strong, and it really helped that this Challenger gear is just such a potent set. Like, all of these things added together has made our character unreasonably strong quite early on. Alongside that, I think I mentioned we did level up quite a lot. I think at the beginning of the video, we were like 220 something maybe, and now we are close to 240, just kind of making our way to level 260, and once we get our 6th drop, this character will get a big spike in damage, so I'm looking forward to that. Until then, I'm just going to be doing my dailies as often as possible, and also making sure to do my 7 monster parks a day. And of course, on top of that, and maybe even most importantly, we have finished up with our Meso drop gear. We're currently only missing 1 ring, which I will probably get after the event reset. I'll just need to be able to get a few more of these advanced research coins, so then I can buy out this event ring. To close up on this character today, in all of our damage gear, we are currently sitting at 5 mil combat power, with our Lynx and Legion on. Our Legion board is very bare bones. I am not touching anything for this Legion board just yet, because I feel like Legion is such a strong part of the game, and I kind of wanted to see how far I could go without too much Legion. But for the Lynx, these are the ones I am currently using. I did recently add Solace in, just because I did level up to 235, so I chose Solace as my reward for 235. I haven't really decided what I'm going to do with the rest of them, because I kind of want to balance my EXP and my damage links, but so far it is looking pretty decent for me. And yeah, that is where our character is at here at the end of part 3. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed the series so far. If you guys have, please give the videos a like, it helps me out a lot. And if you'd like to see more from me, please consider subscribing to the channel. Take care guys, and I'll see you all in the next one.